And without further ado, as they say, let's throw a very simple sequence together using some assets that have been provided as part of the installation of the program. So you don't need to worry about getting your own stuff into the program in order to start using it. You can use what's provided for you. And what we have here in the Organize window is a number of video clips and also a sound clip. And that's what I'm going to use right now. Now I can add them to the timeline. I can build a project simply by clicking on one once and dropping it there. And then take another. Notice that it's in a different sort of frame there. I'll explain that shortly. And drop that one there. And then take number 3 and drop it there. And take number 4 and so on. Now, the clips, as you can see, have a file extension which is .avi. Now, AVI is a standard file format for standard definition video on a normal Windows or Vista PC. So the AVI format just relates to the standard definition file format that you will most likely be using. The files that have been provided to us, and there are 9 video files, start with the file name 001 and then go up sequentially. Now, having thrown a few onto the timeline, just by taking them from here and throwing them down onto the scene line here, I could also inspect a clip first and decide whether I want to use it by double-clicking on it and then viewing it in this preview window. So if I just click the play button.
Good job. Here, I'll have you guys pet her one more time right up here on her head. Good. Give her a little pet. Good job. Here, I'll have you guys pet her one more time.
Now you can see that what's happening is that the preview window is just looping the file. I can also inspect the file much more closely by grabbing hold of this little playhead here with the mouse and just dragging it in each direction. Here we go. And of course, I have frame accurate control over the preview itself. Now, notice that the audio, the sound, goes in the same direction as the video at the same time. So it's synchronous. We call that effect of monitoring the audio synchronous with the video, regardless of what we're doing with it, as scrubbing. So it's scrubbing the audio. We're listening to an audio scrub as we're previewing the video. Now, as well as playing the play button, I can also cue the clip by hitting the space bar on the keyboard as well. So let's just try that one. And pause it again. And again. So we have a choice in terms of the way that we can actually play each clip and manage it either on the mouse or on the keyboard. A lot of stuff down the side here relates to something that I'll be talking about in forthcoming modules, and that is to do with tagging. These tags then are a means of our classifying clips, and we can add all sorts of metadata to enable us to sort our clips, to find our clips and to classify them as we add many more clips to our computer. It comes in very useful, and it's something that we can talk about as we go on. But I'm going to close that one now. So what we have here then is a project on the timeline, and you'll notice that the clip right at the beginning is actually black. Now, why is it black? Well, it's quite simple really. Adobe has just helped us out by putting a fade up at the beginning of what it calls the first clip, the 001.avi that we had up there in the project bin. And if I just play it, you'll see what's going on here. So what you have there is a fade up. There we go. There. So the first frame is black because we're fading up from it, and that's why it's black in there. This clip, if I play this one, now that's a piece of slow-mo. There's nothing clever about slow-mo. They've actually just given us a slow-mo clip just to make it look good. But it's something that we can do really easily in the program. And it's just a little demo clip there. Okay. We have other clips here. Now, of course, I've put them onto the timeline in numerical sequential order, but they don't have to be in that order at all. If, for instance, I don't want that clip at all on the timeline, I just select it once and hit the delete key. It doesn't remove it from the project folder though. It's still there, as you can see there. Okay. If I want to put it back, I can just put it back. If I want to move it somewhere else, I can just move it somewhere else, and so on. Now, you'll see also, if I bring that back to where it was, you'll see that I've got that clip and another one after it. And the reason is that these two clips have been joined together for the purposes of file management. They form a little, what we call a nested sequence. These two clips have been ganged together so that whatever we do with one, we do with the other when it's up here. Of course, that hasn't, of course, they've separated down here, and all this is a bit of black. So I'm going to delete that one because I don't want it, okay? But we can actually group clips together, and we can build sequences on the timeline, and we can construct a project from a set of sequences, and we can move those sequences around knowing that all of the clips that are relevant to those sequences will stay together. And I think that's quite a clever idea. It's a feature of professional video editing programs, but it's rarely been a feature of programs at this price point. So its inclusion here is quite clever on the part of Adobe, and I favor it hugely. I think it's great. So that's a very simple sequence as constructed in the program. There's one other thing I should tell you about, and that is the alternative way of viewing the scene line, and it's called a timeline. So if I just click that button there, now you can see what we have is a completely different view of the program assets as have been placed on the timeline. And what we have now is each of the clips, but with major thumbnails, sequential thumbnails being displayed along here. We can change the look of that later, but more importantly, what we have is the waveform, that is to say, the actual graphical indication of the soundtrack in wavy lines along the bottom underneath each of the relevant clips. And the yellow line along the middle of the two stereo tracks is something that we can use to increase the volume by pulling it down, or decrease the volume rather, or increase it by pushing it up. And that applies to the whole clip, and there's lots that we can do to increase or vary the level of the sound even within the clip using keyframes, and again we'll talk more about that later. But the timeline view can be adjusted by the use of this control up here, so I can contract everything down so that I can see the whole lot. And we have at the moment 27 seconds and 20 frames of video as part of our project, as have been added to the timeline. And as I said before, what you can see from this is a much more detailed view of our project as it is being assembled than you get with the scene line view. The scene line view is a sort of picture postcard style assembly that's great just to get started with. And it's also pretty useful if you're building a slideshow of still pictures that you've taken with a digital still camera, for instance, and you just want to add a load of pictures to a piece of music and add some effects between them. So in that mode, it's actually really useful for that kind of project. But a timeline view is the more detailed view that you will begin to appreciate as your skills with the program increase. And that's the end of this module.